webinar.
So, good evening, dear friends. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar on coordinators meeting, where we will be discussing the RSSDI and ESI therapeutic field, how to use the different drugs and how to look into your patients. So, as we discussed earlier also, type 2 diabetic patients are not similar. So, one size does not fill all. So, there are different characteristics of our patients. Some patients are short duration of diabetes, some are long duration, some are having you can say obesity, some are lean and thin, some are suffering from other cardiovascular disease, some are not, some are having other comorbid conditions like nephropathy, neuropathy, etc., retinopathy, other are having no problem. So diabetic patients are different and we have to choose the drug, anti-diabetic drug accordingly. So this is the theme of this therapeutic wheel of RSSDI and Endocrine Society of India. And today we have Dr. Punglia with us. So he will be highlighting the therapeutic wheel. And I invite Dr. Arvind Gupta to introduce our panelist because Dr. Didi is not there.
We have three panelists today. Dr. Girish Mathur Sahab, and I think he doesn't need any introduction as far as Rajasthan is concerned. He is the elected president of Association of Physicians of India. Is a real pride for all of us, and we have to cheer for Dr. Girish Mathur Sahab. And after KK Parikh Sahab, he is one of the torch bearer for Rajasthan. And one of the best thing today, what we have seen, that maximum number of physicians have got the fellowship of Indian College of Physicians. I think that credit goes to Dr. Parikh Sahab and Dr. Girish Mathur Sahab for this. Thank you very much, Dr. Girish Mathur Sahab. And second panelist is none other than Dr. Puneet Saxena. He is the professor of medicine, SMS Medical College, and very promising, and he is one of the organizing secretary for the next coming Association of Physicians of India, APCON in Jaipur, and hopefully wish him a grand success for the APCON in 2022. Dr. Puneet Saxena is here.
Very much required, sir. Very much required.
Yeah, definitely. And next is Dr. Naval Sahab, who is the next panelist?
Dr. Keshwani.
Dr. Prakash Keshwani. I think he also doesn't need any introduction as far as for Rajasthan is concerned. He was the organizing secretary Jaipur. He is professor of medicine and endocrinology in SMS Medical College, Jaipur. So very promising three panelists today. Dr. Pungalia will be the speaker, and let us hear. And I think please interact after the Dr. Pungalia's speech and lecture. Please interact all the delegates. I request all the delegates to interact with this therapeutic wheel. Thank you very much. Dr. Pungalia sir, please start.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
And I give this, first of all, we start with Dr. Girish Mathur sir. Dr. Girish Mathur sir is here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, please have little words, and then we will invite Dr. Pungalia sir.
Yeah, done.
All the panelists, please.
I'm thankful to Dr. Arvind Gupta, Dr. S.K. Sharma, chairman this program. And this is a very excellent initiative by RSSDI National to train the trainers and to propagate the knowledge among the physicians and general practitioners about the treatment of diabetes. RSSDI has come out with a wheel which depicts a very simplified manner, all the treatment modalities and drugs available for treating diabetes. So it's a good program, and RSDI Rajasthan chapter
हाँ, कर
is taking forward this program to all the
डीए लड्डा को करना
governors of Rajasthan. And today, I welcome Dr. J.L. Pungle sir, a very senior consultant of Chittorgarh, to speak about RSDI wheel. Thank you so much, all the participants, for joining this program.
Dr. Puneet, you want to say something?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. And as Dr. Mathur sir has already told that it's a very nice program to spread the awareness of diabetes, especially the recommendations given by RSDI amongst the leading physicians and diabetologists to train them so that they can
Ladda
disseminate the
DL.
knowledge further at the peripheral level. And RSDI Rajasthan, under the chairmanship of the coordinator committee of Dr. S.K. Sharma, Dr. Arvind Gupta ji, is doing a wonderful job. And we are having a CME every Wednesday, and all the districts, they are getting connected. So we hope that this all the best to this program, and we wish that that we will be able to manage diabetes in a better terms if we learn from these CMEs. That's all from my side. And as far as the diabetes wheel is concerned, I think I have few comments on that, that it needs certain suggestions, which probably we'll do it after the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Prakash,
Ladda
are you
DL.
there? Dr. Prakash Keswani?
I
I
think
think he
there.
is not joined, na?
Yeah,
He is
so,
not there.
let's
Okay.
go to the proper meeting now.
Yes, sir. Dr. Pungalia, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Now, before I start, I am thankful to Dr. S.K. Goyal and Dr. K.K. Parikh, who has introduced me in API and RSSDI. And Dr. Girish Mathur also, he has encouraged me to move forward in RSSDI and API. I am a follower of Dr. S.K. Sharma and Dr. Arvind Gupta in diabetes in Rajasthan. Their approach to expanding the disease is really simple and can be understood very well. Dr. K.K. Parikh has a humanitarian approach. He wants every child of type 1 diabetes must get insulin, and the type 2 diabetes should not develop any complications. For that, one has to keep the HbA1c level near normal, and hence each and every doctor should know the right way of treatment to keep the diabetes under control. Keeping this in mind, RSDI is now organizing such programs. I will start my program. Screen share आ गया.
Yeah, they are.
Today's
visible.
topic
Yeah, they are
is
visible, sir.
today's topic is a clinical and practical recommendation for the management of type 2 diabetes. आगे नहीं बढ़ रहा है. Okay. बता दो, हाँ, ठीक है. The RSDI and ESI means the Endocrine Society of India, the Rajiv Chawla, Dr. Madhu, Dr. Makkar, Dr. Ghosh, Dr. Bansi Shabu, and Dr. Sanjay Kalra. They, on the behalf of the RSDI and ESI, the consultant group, they have recommended the management of type 2 diabetes program. Now, the consensus group recommended that the diagnosis of diabetes, the prevention, including the screening and early detection of diabetes. Treatment, one is medical nutrition therapy and the lifestyle modification. Second is oral anti-diabetic drugs. Third is injectable drugs like insulin or GLP-1, or the fourth one is the individualizing the therapy. Whatever the diagnosis again, diagnosis of pre-diabetes is the fasting sugar is 100 to 125, and the post-prandial sugar is 240 to 190, and HbA1c is 5.7 to 6.4. This is called pre-diabetes. So we should concentrate on pre-diabetes, and they should be strictly followed the lifestyle. If needed, metformin can be given. Now, the second, the diagnosis of diabetes is always fasting blood sugar is more than 126. The post-parental sugar is more than 200, and HbA1c is more than 6.5. Now, relevant factors to Indian context and management of type 2 diabetes by A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H group approach. Now, relevant factors. Now, what in our country, the prevalence of pre-diabetes and diabetes is more. The onset of type 2 diabetes is a decade earlier than in the Western countries. Now, high prevalence of diabetes related micro and macrovascular complications. Large rural and urban diabetes is very common in urban people. Nowadays, the rural people are also developing diabetes. So the major cause is the sedentary lifestyle and the physical inactivity. A laborer who is working since morning to evening, he will never develop diabetes. I have not seen in 50 years clinical practice any labor developing diabetes. Now the cost of the treatment, diagnosis, monitoring and prevalence is very high, and we are having limited resources. Medical nutrition therapy and the lifestyle modification. This is the first treatment. The nutrition counseling provided by the healthcare providers and our staff of the clinic, our clinic, they should be trained regarding nutrition. The overall reduction of consumption of simple carbohydrate, sugar and fried foods, there should be reduced, and high consumption of complex carbohydrate with high protein intake is recommended. The salt intake should be modern. It should not be more than 5 grams. Now, encourage increased duration and frequency of physical activity, so that there must be a good physical activity for long duration, and in the day also there will be frequent physical activity should be there. Mass awareness campaign for healthy diet and lifestyle should be conducted to prevent for prevention of diabetes. Now, regarding recommendation of the diet which should be given, the carbohydrate, the simple carbohydrate should not be taken, like sugar, raw sugar, brown sugar, glucose, fruit juices, sodas, packed juices, cakes, etc. And complex carbohydrate should be taken, that is wheat grains, fiber rich in fruits, the carrots, kela, gajar, shakarkand, aloo, matar, brown rice, moong, rajma, chana, adi. These carbohydrates should be taken. And regarding fat, saturated fat like cakes, ice creams, coconut, chocolate, creams, it should be avoided. Unsaturated fat like sunflower oil, mungfali, badam, dry fruits, nariyal, they should be taken. Protein, fish, paneer, green vegetables, eggs, mungfali, matar, rajma, or ankurit, moong or moat, these should be increased. Regarding artificial sweetener, it should not be more than 2 to 3 grams. Coming to the physical activity, 150 minutes per week of the physical activity is recommended. 30 minutes walk every day is essential, and 15 minutes of the muscle stretching exercise at least 3 times a week, it should be continued. Now, today's actually program is on RSI therapeutic wheel, and now the therapeutic wheel looks like a complex wheel, but I will try to make it simple. It has got 8 components here, 8 factors, and 5 zones. 8 factors: A for age, advancing age; B for BMI, more BMI, more weight; C for CKD, advanced CKD, chronic kidney disease; D for duration of diabetes, the increasing duration of diabetes; E for established CV risk; F for finance, the patient's condition, whether it is poor or the glycemic status at the time of patient comes to you, what is his HbA1c? It is high, then status is more. And H for hypoglycemia, is there any history of hypoglycemia? Then the drug which cause hypoglycemia should be avoided. Coming to the wheel, now innermost, from inner to out, innermost wheel is LSM, means lifestyle modification. Each and every patient should be advised for lifestyle modification. The second zone is a metformin. It means all patients of this group, they should be given metformin except C for chronic kidney disease. Especially if the eGFR is less than 30, this should be avoided. And if the eGFR is 40 or 60, the dose has to be adjusted. Now, further, this is a green zone. This zone, in this zone, all anti-diabetic drug can be given, in them, especially in mild cases, who is having less complications, they all zone. Now, the patient moderate disease having some complication, they require attention, which drug should be given to which patient. Now, for example, now this wheel has to be seen in the clockwise direction. And these drugs are mentioned. Suppose the A for age, advancing age, the DDP4 inhibitor, AGI, SGLT2 inhibitor, and pioglitazone, and so on. Especially in the B for BMI, increased weight. If the weight is more, you should advise. Of course, in all the drugs, the metformin has to be added. Metformin and SGLT2 inhibitor, GLP, DPP4 inhibitor, and so on. Now coming to the C, it is very important. Many medicines has to be, the dose has to be adjusted. For medicine, many medicine cannot be given. C, SGLT2 inhibitor. If the disease is severe, no metformin. DDP4 inhibitor, then insulin, sulfonylurea, and so on. Coming to the D, the duration of disease is more. The patient is having long-term diabetes for many years. Then again metformin, SGLT2 inhibitor, DDP4 inhibitor, pioglitazone, and sulfonylurea, and so on. Coming to the E, established cardiac risk factors. The patient who has got atherosclerosis, has got myocardial infarction, history of cerebral stroke or peripheral vascular disease. These patients, the E for this, again with metformin, SGLT2 inhibitor, GLP1 and antagonist, pioglitazone, and DDP4 inhibitor, and so on. Next is the F for finance. The patient who is poor, you cannot afford the medicine, then the cheaper medicine should be given, that is sulfonylurea, insulin, and pioglitazone. Then again G for glycemic index. If the HbA1c is very high, then the drug which speedily reduce the A1c, like sulfonylurea, SGLT2 inhibitor, pioglitazone. And H, is there any history of hypoglycemia? Then the drug which cause hypoglycemia should be avoided. The SGLT2 inhibitor, DDP4 inhibitor, and pioglitazone, these drugs should be given. Now the last zone is a red zone, in which the disease is severe and many medicine cannot be given. For example, in the C, you can give only DDP4 inhibitor and insulin, no other drugs. In this way, this wheel can be utilized to treat the patient. Now, I will give you just for some examples. A 48 years old male, a businessman, having type 2 diabetes for last 3 years, he is on metformin 1 gram, A1C is 8.4, and he attempted the lifestyle changes unsuccessful. He is hypertensive on Ramipril. He does not want injection, and he is obese, BMI 32, blood pressure 142/84, acanthosis nigricans, ECG is normal. What other drug should be given? Is HbA1c is 8.4. Now, he is got a 48 years old, means younger age, and 3 years is a short duration, and lifestyle modification failed, and the declining does not want any injections. BMI is 32.4. So the problem is BMI. Now come A for age, younger age, BMI is high, duration of short, and oral therapy. He wants oral therapy, he does not want injectable. So now see how can we see the wheel. Again, the main problem is BMI. Age is younger, duration short, so BMI is the problem. BMI high, go for BMI along with the metformin, can give SGLT2 inhibitor, GLP-1, DDP4 inhibitor, AGI, and so on. Now he is already getting 1 gram of metformin. We can increase the metformin from 1 to 1.5 or 2 gram. And what is next is the step up the metformin. You can increase if patient is not under control. Add SGLT2 inhibitor, DP4 inhibitor, and good patient education for the better control. The diet modification is needed since he is obese. Next, a 70 years, the smoker with documented atherosclerosis, with coronary vasculature, diabetes is 12 years old. He is on glimepiride 2 gram and metformin 1 gram. A1C is 8.6. He has got a myocardial infarction, myocardial infarction, microalbuminuria, multiple muscular disease. So see now he is an old man. The duration is again 12 years, duration is more. The age is advancing age. Then BMI is high, and there is a myocardial infarction. He has got albuminuria, is renal involvement. Now what drug should be given? The age is old, BMI is high, duration is prolonged, established CVD disease is there. Now which drug should be given from the wheel? Now most important is establish the CVD. Let us see first E for with metformin, SGLT2 inhibitor, GLP-1, bioglutathione, DDP4 inhibitor, and so on. Then the high BMI, B for this one, again with metformin, SGLT2 inhibitor, GLP, DDP4 inhibitor, AGI. So let us see. We can add SGLT2 inhibitor for better option is established cardiovascular disease and high BMI and old age. GLP-1 can be added. It is available in injection form. It is a costly drug. If you cannot afford, DDP4 inhibitor and bioglutathione can be added. Glimepiride and metformin should be continued, and more than 2 drugs are needed, hence the other drug has to be added. Third, a 60 years old female is having diabetes for the last 7 years. She is on metformin 1.45 gram, hypothyroid. She is on atorvastatin, levothyroxine, aspirin. Questionable adherence. She is not particular to take medicine. She is open to injection. She is ready for injection. Now ECG is old interval MI. Again, established cardiovascular problem. BMI is 30, BMI is again high. Now, the old age, 7 years duration, and high BMI, the eGFR is 37.6, serum creatinine is 1.5, the renal involvement, and the established cardiovascular involvement. Now, which drug should be given? Age is old, BMI is high, CKD is there, duration is established cardiovascular involvement. Which drug should be given? Now, you just gave the CKD, C4 CKD. Now, she can be given metformin in a lower dosage, SGLT2 inhibitor, but she is already taking 1.5 gram of the metformin. So we can add SGLT2 inhibitor, DD4 inhibitor, insulin, and sulfonylurea. Then established cardiovascular spectrum, you can add the SGLT, GLP, and pioglitazone and so on. Now, which drug should be given to this patient? Metformin should be continued. Dose cannot be increased because eGFR is 37.6. Then add SGLT2 inhibitor because of the age, it is a renal protection, DDP4 inhibitor, sulfonylurea, insulin, GLP-1. And ask him to improve the adherence to the medicine so that it can be controlled. Next, this is the last example. Again, is a 46 years old male. He is working as a servant in the show and 3 years duration. A1C 9.1, eGFR is 88, near normal, reluctant for injection, normal lipid profile. He is not taking any medicine and BMI is 24.8, it is almost normal. Now, he is newly diagnosed patient. He is not taking any medicine. He came for the first time. Many times to us, these type of patient comes for the first time that they are having diabetes mellitus and the A1C is high. Now, he is a poor man because he is a servant in a shop. He has got a A1C 9.1 and reluctant for injection. What drug should be given? What is the problem? Finance and glycemic status 9.1, more than 8, 9.1 HbA1c. So glycemic status is more. You give metformin. This patient is not taking any medicine. So full dose of metformin, sulfonylurea, SGLT2 inhibitor, pioglitazone, DD4 inhibitor. Especially if he is a poor man, again sulfonylurea, insulin, pioglitazone, this can be offered. 8 metformin, sulfonylurea, pioglitazone, and early insulin convenience. Now, I have tried to explain how to use the wheel in the treatment of diabetes. Now, treatment has to be individualized. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, all 4 things. Any patient may have one problem or 2, 3 problem or combination problem. So treatment should be individualized to all patients. Now, coming to the detail about the medicine, drugs, age. If in advancing age, the sulfonylurea, modernurea, the glimepiride, gliclazide, the good glycemic control and safe to use. The only problem is hypoglycemia. One should watch for it. Second drug, DD4 inhibitor, the efficacious and safe, but if there is a eGFR is less, then the dose has to be adjusted. AGI, a modest efficacy and has got a GI side effect like flatulence and diarrhea. SGLT2 inhibitor, it is a good glycemic control and reduce CV risk. It is a very good drug, but the problem is it can cause genital mycotic infection, urinary tract infection, hypovolemia, postural hypotension, not suitable for weak elderly people. Glitazones, restricted use in elderly people. And the weight gain, fluid retention, peripheral edema, aggression, you can aggravate the congestive heart failure, and osteoporosis in post-menopausal women, they should be avoided. Come to the basal insulin. Basal insulin can be very well given in advanced age, effective and safe. Watch for hypoglycemia. GLP-1 is a very good drug, good glycemic control, reduce CV risk, but the only thing is the discomfort of injection, and it is costly drug. Now come to the BMI. The weight reduction is very important in type 2 diabetic patient, especially in the obese patient. Now, if patient reduces the weight by 15 kg, diabetes can be cured. There will be remission. It is a reversible. But by 15 kg, and so that again, the weight reduction is very important regarding diet, lifestyle modification, and consider the medication which cause either weight loss or weight neutral. Which drug are weight loss, which cause weight loss, and which drug is weight neutral? SGLT2 inhibitor and GLP-1. These drugs cause weight loss, and AGIs are weight neutral. DB1 inhibitor are weight neutral. Modern sulfonylurea do not result in the weight gain, but conventional sulfonylurea increase the weight. Insulin cause weight gain. So these things should be avoided, and these drugs should be prescribed to these patients. Metformin do cause weight loss, so it should be continued to every patient. CKD. The evidence suggests that 2 oral antihypertensive, DDP4 inhibitor, SGLT2 inhibitor, and GLP-1 exert a renal protection. Hence, these drugs should be prescribed in the chronic kidney disease. SGLT2 inhibitors are indicated to improve the glycemic control in adults with type 2 diabetes by reducing the reabsorption of filtered glucose, and they can also lower the renal threshold of glucose and thereby increasing urinary glucose excretion. CKD, continue now. The ripaglitide across all stages of renal insufficiency, but watch for hypoglycemia. Pioglitazone can be used in any EGFR, but it can cause fluid retention and congestive heart failure. Now, SGLT2 inhibitor, the preferred for renal protection action, is a very good drug, but again, it has to be given the empagliflozin. It cannot be given below 45 of EGFR. The dapagliflozin cannot be given below 60 EGFR, and the canagliflozin cannot be given below 45 of EGFR. Now, GLP-1 recommendation up to the EGFR of 15, owing to their GI side effect, used in the renal insufficiency is practically limited. Insulin is the safest at any stage of renal insufficiency, but the drug has to be, the dosage may be adjusted according to the EGFR, and duration of diabetes. Early phase of diabetes, the tight glycemic control is important, and as it leads to glycemic memory, if the patient, it leads to glycemic memory for a longer time, if the patient is uncontrolled also, but there will not be any complications. Then protection from the micro and macrovascular complications if there is a tight control of the early phase of diabetes. Sulfonylurea and metformin are the most suited to tight glycemic control, and they are cheaper also. Now, in the long-standing diabetes, you have to keep in mind patient with long-standing diabetes having deficient beta cell function and other comorbidities, including renal impairment. So, by prescribing these drugs, one should keep in mind this problem. Insulin addresses insulinogenic status, that is, endogenous insulin is exhausted. It becomes just like type 1 diabetes. So, any oral drug, those to stimulate the insulin, especially sulfonylurea, they will not work. Incretin-based therapy, particularly among the incretin-based therapy, the GLP-1 agonist is preferred over the DDP-4 inhibitors. SGLT2 inhibitor is preferred as the insulin independent action. AGI is effective sometimes owing to the beta cell independent action. Now coming to the established cardiovascular diseases. The patient with established cardiovascular diseases, GLP-1 analog, SGLT2 inhibitors are proven efficacious, they are preferred. In the heart failure and CKD also, both the drugs, GLP-2 inhibitor and GLP-1 agonist and SGLT2 inhibitor are the preferred drug. Pioglitazone has been shown in few studies to reduce the CV risk. However, pioglitazone should not be used in patients with a subclinical heart failure or patient with low ejection fraction. Linagliptin, those patients who do not respond to the SGLT2 inhibitor and GLP inhibitor, still the patient is not under control. The linagliptin, glimepiride, gliclazide MR can be preferred over the conventional sulfonylurea. Now, financial concern. Considering that many Indian patients do not have medical insurance and treatment needs to be continued lifelong, so cost therapy is very important for these patients. So sulfonylurea can be good partner to the metformin. They are both the drugs are cheaper, and considering their cost, to the light of recent Corolina trial demonstrating the CV neutrality of the glimepiride compared to the linagliptin. Initially, it was told the conventional sulfonylurea may cause CV risk, cardiovascular risk, but after the Corolina trial, the metformin does not cause any cardiovascular risk. Pioglitazone, again a cheaper drug, inexpensive DDP-4 inhibitor like linagliptin or SGLT2 inhibitor like dapagliflozin can also be considered in combination with sulfonylurea, or metformin cannot achieve the goal. If only now conventional insulin can be used at any stage considering efficacy and cost. Now glycemic status. As soon as a patient comes to us, if the HbA1c is 10, 11, 12, it is high, then the drug which has a high efficacy, they reduce the A1c very fast. These drugs should be provided. These drugs are insulin, GLP-1, SGLT2 inhibitor, pioglitazone, DDP-4 inhibitor, modern sulfonylurea. The AGIs and glinides, they are moderately effective. Hypoglycemia is an important limiting factor in treatment of diabetes. All patients with risk of hypoglycemia should be inquired about the symptomatic or asymptomatic hypoglycemia at each visit. And patient along with their family members should be well educated about the identification and management of hypoglycemia. especially in nighttime hypoglycemia. Strictly manage and monitor. Manage and monitor the elderly people. They are more prone to develop hypoglycemia, pregnancy, fasting people in the upvas, vrat wale, then metabolic disorders. Now, which drug cause hypoglycemia? The insulin and modern sulfonylurea. So these drugs, if there is a history of hypoglycemia, these drugs should be avoided, or if at all it has to be used, it should be in lower doses. And other all drugs, they do not cause any hypoglycemia, can be prescribed very well. Now, coming to the wheel again, I have tried to make you understand how this wheel can be used to treat the diabetic patients. And now, as soon as patient comes to you in your clinic, how to use the RSSI wheel, therapeutic wheel. First and foremost, the prescribed lifestyle intervention to all patients, diet and exercise, CV risk factor reduction. Metformin to most patients in the inner core of the wheel, to all patients. Then identify 2 or 3 most important factors from the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Any patient can have more than 2, 3 factors like age, chronic kidney disease, finance, all. So identify the best choice available from our ring, which drug will be best. Further fine tune your choice if more concern exists. If you still feel that it is not proper, then make a rational final choice with the individualized approach. Identify the complication and its management strategy. RSDI therapeutic wheel is designed to be simple, user-friendly approach to decide the appropriate anti-diabetic agent to be used in type 2 diabetes mellitus. Now the complementary and alternative therapies like yoga, pranayam, meditations, massage therapy, acupuncture, Ayurvedic, yoga, naturopathy. Many patients must be coming to us that should we start in Europathic, you can use Ayurvedic along with allopathic. Many questions they ask. But strictly the physicians, diabetologists, and registered dietitian who are trained to medical modern system of medicine are advised not to prescribe complementary or alternative medicine to treat the diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Should not replace conventional modalities of type 2 diabetes management. Now, in the conclusion, the management of type 2 diabetes has a real effect on individual and community health, psychological well-being, quality of life, as well as economic effect. The diabetes management planning should be individualized, not a one-size-fits-all treatment patient with the patient with type 2 diabetes. Individualized therapy could serve as a real-world approach. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Punglia Saab. Thank you very much for very simplified way you had told us how to use the wheel for our type 2 diabetic patient. Dear friends, there must be some questions, so we can discuss that out. In just short, I will just highlight why we need this type of approach, because diabetic patients are having different scenario, different factors, as Dr. Punglia highlighted. Some may be having short duration of diabetes, some may be having long duration of diabetes. Some may be obese, some may be lean, some may be having very high sugar profile, some may be having low sugar profile. HbA1c is very mildly elevated, in some it is very high. Some are having cardiovascular disease or heart failure or CKD. Some are having no other symptoms of these diseases. And some are rich, some are poor, some are middle family. So, and there are patients who are having increased risk of hypoglycemia. So you have to select the drug. There are 2, 3, 4 drugs which are preferred, and there are 2, 3 drugs which should not be given to these patients. A simple examination is simple, I should say, example is in our elderly patient, female patient, post-menopausal ladies, we should avoid pioglitazone because pioglitazone causes significant osteoporosis. But if the patient is young, we should be always using this pioglitazone because it is a drug which reduces insulin resistance. So similarly, if the patient is having CKD, if the CKD is mild, then DPP-4 inhibitor, GLP-1 receptor agonist or SGLT2 inhibitors are preferred. And now we know that to retard the progression of CKD, we usually use this dapagliflozin, which is now generic in our hands. So every patient has got 2 or 3 factors, like he is having elderly scenario, he is poor, he is having congestive heart failure. So your selection becomes accordingly. A patient comes who is very young, having no problem, and he is rich also. You can give any drug like GLP-1 receptor agonist injectable, which will reduce the weight of the patient also. So selection of the drug is very, very important. And that's how you will be using this therapeutic wheel. You can keep this wheel under your glass of the table, and you can frequently look at it and decide which is the best treatment. So I think I will hand over the session to our panelists, and we can have some question answer. And if there is any question, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Over to you, Dr. Saxena.
Thank you very much, sir. And I congratulate Dr. Pungia for giving a very nice coverage of RSDI wheel and its practical utility. And if there are any questions or comments from anybody who wants to comment or question.
I want to ask something.
So yeah, please. Yes, please.
Please,
Yes,
Dr.
please.
Kast.
Dr.
Yeah.
Kast, yes.
Yeah.
Please.
Kindly tell few words about comorbid liver disorders and pregnancy.
I think pregnancy is very, very important. Actually, what is happening now,
So,
the ladies
that
are
is
now,
what
ladies are now going for education, and then they also go for employment. So marriages are now done at a later age, and then childbirth is also at a later age. And what is happening? Diabetes is coming at a younger age. So many of our type 2 diabetic ladies who has not yet completed their family may be having these drugs on board. So once they come to you, you may be using many of these drugs, but we all know that during pregnancy, we don't want to give them any of these oral drugs except metformin. And metformin is also cleared just few years back. So earlier we were not giving any drug except lifestyle and insulin. But now metformin is one of the availability, but we don't allow any other drug. So whenever you have a young lady coming to you who is now want to have pregnancy after, let's say, 1 year, 2 year down the line, you should be telling her that there is a pre-pregnancy counseling, that if you want to go for pregnancy side, 3 months before the planning of pregnancy, you should stop all your drugs. You can continue with metformin, and you should be shifting yourself to insulin therapy. Insulin will continue for next 9 months. And after delivery, we will think about whether to continue insulin or to shift you to oral drugs. So this is regarding the pregnancy. As regards cardiovascular disease are concerned or liver disease are concerned, let's take the liver disease first. Liver disease, you can divide the disease into 3 severity: mild, moderate, and severe. So in mild liver disease, most of these drugs can be given. Okay, but once the patient is having moderate or severe liver disease, I think the best preference is insulin therapy. So we should always stop most of these drugs and start giving insulin. As regards cardiovascular disease is concerned, here we have beautiful drugs in the group of SGLT2 and GLP-1 receptor agonist. And as Dr. Pungli highlighted, some of the studies are also highlighting good role of pioglitazone. But pioglitazone, there are two things. One is cardiovascular disease and the other is heart failure. So you have to differentiate between cardiovascular disease and heart failure. Pioglitazone should not be given in heart failure, but it can be given in patients of heart disease. Okay, and we prefer SGLT2 inhibitor or GLP-1 receptor agonist. The problem with GLP-1 receptor agonist is that they are injectable and they are costly also. And that's why most of the time we prefer SGLT2 inhibitor like dapagliflozin, which is now available in a generic form also. So this is how you will decide the selection of your drugs in your patient. Thank you.
Can metformin be given with liver disorders? Because
Yeah,
it
you
is
can give
giving
metformin in mild to moderate.
liver
In mild to
benefit.
moderate, not in severe, only in mild to moderate. You can give it.
Dinesh Sharma.
Yes, sir.
From Bhilwara. So first
Please.
of all, thank you, sir. Punglia, sir. It's very good explanation of therapeutic wheel. Sir, I want to ask whether any evidence which insulin is better in pregnancy, either regular insulin or glargine or any
Dr.
long.
Saxena, please. Dr. Puneet.
So the conventional insulins have been proven, and of late you had studies and recommendations based more on real world evidences. And Detamir was the first one which was approved in pregnancy. And then later on, the glargine is also being used, but still the FDA recommendations for newer long-acting analogs is still not there. So I think you can manage in pregnancy. We all are using glargine also in pregnancy, and it's serving the purpose very well. So the recommendations are going to come for the newer analogs also, and you can use the conventional and the basic insulins in the meantime. And as the recommendation by metformin has changed over the years, right? So you will see the changes or maybe recommendations for your insulin.
Thank you, sir. Most of the time, our patients are not rich, so we give human insulin. You can give regular human insulin, you can give mixtures of insulin. But the best way, if the patient is already a diabetic and now pregnant, they usually require basal bolus therapy, where we give 3 short-acting, whether regular or analog short-acting, and 1 long-acting, either NPH or glargine or Levemir. So these are the 2 long-acting or NPH. So most of the time we are not giving this Degludec and any other long-acting drug. So that is how analogs are preferred, because analogs insulin like Aspart and Humalog can be given just before the meal, as compared to human insulin, which is to be given 30 minutes before the meal. So it becomes a slightly difficult scenario for a patient to take an injection and wait for 30 minutes. And that's why we give analog insulin, analog short acting. And analogs are also slightly better in reducing postprandial hyperglycemia rather than the regular insulin. And the chances of in between the meal hypoglycemia is also less with analog insulin. So hyperglycemia is well managed and hypo is less with analog, but the analogs are costlier drugs, as you all know. That's why most of our patients are on human regular insulin, and we give either NPH or we give glargine or we give Levemir. Thank you.
I think the Apitra is not still approved.
Apitra is not approved. Absolutely, sir. You are right. Apitra is not approved. Only short-acting analogs are Aspart, that is Novo Rapid, and Humalog. Yeah.
Lispro.
Lispro. Yes, Humalog is Lispro. You call Humalog or Lispro anything. They are same.
In chronic diabetes, in some chronic diabetes, we are seeing hypoglycemic symptoms at a higher level also. That may not be at book prescribed level.
Dr.
What
Arvind?
do you feel?
It's a
Yes, sir.
relativity basically.
Yeah, I think this is very important.
Relativity, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Kasat. I think this is very important aspect. The most important thing which is known as hypoglycemia unawareness. This is one thing. Another thing is when the long duration of diabetes, there may be a chances of autonomic neuropathy, by which a patient, cannot recognize the hypoglycemia. So this is one aspect. Another aspect of the coin which you are asking, that patient is experiencing hypoglycemia at the higher level,
Yeah.
not at the 70, 80, maybe 90. So
Yeah.
there are two reasons maybe. One reason is that sometimes the patient is having very high blood sugar, 300, 400, and you are giving insulin or you are giving some drugs, or patient is having less food or something like this. In that case, there decline of blood sugar, the rapid decline of blood sugar. Even at 90 or 100, the patient will experience the hypoglycemic symptoms. That is one of the important things. It is not that, so that is the rapid declining from very high blood sugar to the lower level. So that is one thing. And patient is already set in on the higher. Patient is having 300 or 200 to 300 for so many, long duration. And suddenly the patient is having the reducing the blood sugar. So that is one of the, reasons for experiencing hypoglycemic symptoms at the higher level. But it is not that. If patient will continue, at that point of the time, the blood sugar will still fall. So that is the reason.
So the long duration of diabetes causes autonomic dysfunction. There is a decrease or absent secretion of adrenaline, which is a hormone which is released during hypo, and it causes symptomatology of hypos. But once you have a long duration and autonomic neuropathy, those symptoms may be absent, as Dr. Arvind highlighted, and patient may have hypo but no symptoms. So you have to be very careful in this type of patient, not to give media and give carefully insulin doses.
Sir,
Any other question?
myself, Dr. A.R. Chaudhary.
I wanted this thing.
चौधरी साहब, कासर साहब, चौधरी साहब को भी एक बार ले लेते हैं.
And tell us, sir, any preference for SGLT2 inhibitor, because now many of SGLT2 inhibitors are available. Preference for empagliflozin, canagliflozin, or dapagliflozin.
सक्सेना साहब, पुनीत जी. डॉक्टर पुनीत कहाँ गए? सक्सेना साहब गायब हो गए. अरविंद जी, what is your preference of SGLT2?
So I think as far as the mechanism of action is concerned, Dr. Chaudhary, any SGLT2 inhibitors can be given to any patient. Now, depending on the different clinical trials or clinical studies which are already been there, so from that point of view, you can again give a preference is not there, but preference is always from dapagliflozin to canagliflozin to empagliflozin. Of course, EMPA-REG was the first clinical trial which has proved cardiovascular benefit. So empagliflozin was preferred right from the beginning when SGLT2 inhibitors were introduced. Later on, so many studies were done on canagliflozin also. So at that time, the canagliflozin was also being given. The third one is the dapagliflozin, which is already been, now generic, as Dr. S.K. Sharma Sahab has already highlighted. So depending on your cost of medicine, if your patient is poor or economically not very well, then dapagliflozin is preferred as far as the cost of medicine is concerned. But as far as mechanism of action is concerned, I think empagliflozin or canagliflozin or dapagliflozin are okay. So, depending on your different conditions, economic conditions or scientific reasons, there are no major difference of preferring any SGLT2 inhibitors in your patient. So this is from my take.
So the first point is that their mechanism of action is more or less similar. but the what we usually use a term is evidence-based. So evidence-based means what is the drug used in which type of patient in the clinical scenario. So in randomized clinical trial, EMPA-REG outcome trial with empagliflozin was used in patients who are having a pre-existing cardiovascular disease. So if, for example, you want to go according to the evidences, if your patient is diabetic and having a pre-existing cardiovascular disease, the best choice is empagliflozin. If the patient is having renal problem, then Credence was done with canagliflozin. So you can give Credence. But recently, DAPA-CKD was also out, which again tells us that there is a retardation of progression of kidney disease with dapagliflozin. So you can give DAPA also. Okay. Then heart failure. In heart failure, either DAPA heart failure, you take the evidence from DAPA heart failure study, that is with dapagliflozin, or Emperor reduced, that is with empagliflozin and heart failure. So whenever you have a patient with heart failure, you can use EMPA or dapagliflozin. Otherwise, as Dr. Arvind highlighted, mechanism of action is same. Sometimes our patient cannot afford those international brands which are very costly. So we use these generic version of dapagliflozin. Thank you. Any other question? Dr. Kasat, you wanted to ask some question?
I want to ask, have you seen any bladder disease carcinoma with DAPA?
With pioglitazone.
No, DAPA also. DAPA was also delayed only because of concern of bladder. Just like pioglitazone, earlier we were having a concern about the pioglitazone causing bladder cancer, but now we know that it do not cause. So it is a good drug. Pioglitazone is a very, very good drug. But mind it, it is not to be given in elderly patient, in patient who are suffering from heart failure, and in significant congestive heart failure, or in patient with CHD, because it causes weight gain and edema. But it is a very good drug for reducing insulin resistance. So you prefer it in younger patient, short duration of diabetes, that is there. Dapagliflozin was also, during the development of dapagliflozin, there was some concern that there is a hematuria. So what happened? Dapagliflozin was the first drug in this group of SGLT2. But because of that concern, they further went and studied this drug for next 2 years. And during that 2 years, they realized that there is no bladder cancer with DAPA. And that's why, although the drug was first in that group, but canagliflozin came in the market first in that group. And that's why canagliflozin was started in America. But we all know now that they do not cause any bladder cancer.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, Jain sir, please.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
सर पहले तो पुंगले सर को बहुत बहुत बधाई. सर ने बहुत अच्छे से वो कॉम्प्लेक्स जो सर्कल था उसके बारे में बताया. सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है कि सर इंसुलिन के टेबलेट है क्या पाइपलाइन में कि जल्दी मार्केट में इंसुलिन टेबलेट आ जाए?
मजा आ जाएगा. पुंगले साहब आंसर दीजिए.
Oral insulin will not be. It is under trial. But inhaler insulin may come.
Inhaler is also already available in USA by the name of Afrezza, but it is very costly and it is only short acting. If you want to give insulin, you have to give short as well as long acting. So one long acting insulin like Glargine or Degludec or U300 Glargine is to be given, and then you are taking, just like asthma patients are taking inhaler, you have to give inhaler of insulin. But because only 10% of the drug is absorbed from the respiratory tract, so you have to give larger doses of insulin, and there may be some concern about some respiratory problem, some causing some problem there. That's why it is not very commonly used even in America because of the cost of the therapy, and you may have to have some respiratory, you can say, concern there. That's why Afrezza is not very commonly used, but people are trying. You can see that there are studies going on how to combine insulin with a absorption enhancer. And recently we will be having a GLP-1 receptor agonist, which will be coming as a oral. Why there is a problem? Because these are protein compounds, protein or peptide compounds, and peptide and proteins are digested in our system, and our acid is also causing damage to them. That's why. But once you combine them with a absorption enhancer, a snack is there, SNAC. Now what they have done, semaglutide, just like liraglutide, semaglutide, which is available in injection form in USA and Europe. What they have done, they have combined the semaglutide with this absorption enhancer snack, SNAC, snack. And now what they do, they ask the patient to take it in the early morning with half a glass of water, and don't take it anything with for 1 hour. And during that time, this is a absorption enhancer, causes absorption of that drug rapidly. But when you are giving it you are giving it subcutaneously, you are giving it 1 milligram. But when you are giving it orally, you are giving it 14 milligram. So the cost of therapy increases. Similarly, people are trying to attach insulin to a absorption enhancer, but still they are not really successful in that, you can say, in that activity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, how commonly used the insulin pump?
Insulin pump is now very commonly used in USA and in Europe. Most of their type 1 diabetic patients are on insulin pump, and many of type 2 are also. But in Indian context, because you have to purchase it from your pocket, there it is the supply from the insurance side. That's why they are having more patients on insulin pump. But in India, we have to purchase it from our own pocket. That's why very few patients. But there are patients now. Patients' pocket power is now gradually increasing, and many of the patients are now on insulin pump, particularly type 1 diabetic patients.
Just I can add a little bit on the insulin pump, Dr. Jain. It is not that unpopular in our country. The people are now getting good affordability. So that is one thing. Second thing, the newer pumps which are coming, known as 640G, which is already available in India. That is one of the, you can say, artificial pancreas. So patient it is so user friendly. Once the patient is using this 640G, that he is not supposed to, even monitor his blood sugar. His hypoglycemia and hyperglycemia is being, informed very half an hour earlier. So patient usually doesn't get hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia during the pump thing. And it is not that unaffordable. It is 5 lakhs plus treatment, and 5,000 per month is the recurring expenses. So, now the people are coming with the affordability, and I think Indore is one of the reasons. The Trivandrum, Indore, Ahmedabad, the people are using in insulin pump like anything, and some doctors are even giving this on the rent, or EMI is also available. So there are so many things available for the insulin pump. So in the future is for insulin pump, not at present, as Dr. S.K. Sharma sir highlighted. Still, people are not affording, this type of therapy. But once they are using, I'm telling, I have got good number of patients on insulin pump, and they are very, very happy.
The problem with insulin pump, as Dr. Arvind highlighted, is first you have to purchase the pump, which is costly, and then the recurring cost of something like 5,000 rupees in our younger patients. If the patient is requiring higher doses, then the cost increases, because you have to change the cannula every 3 days. So cannula is coming from Europe, and that is very costly. That is why the cost of therapy, and you have to use only analog rapid acting insulin. That is again a costly affair. But now what people are doing, as Dr. Arvind highlighted, the closing the loop. Closing the loop means on one hand you are having a insulin pump, on the other hand you are having a continuous glucose monitoring system, and now they close that you can say limb with a automated computerized system. So on one hand you are getting the glucose value by continuous glucose measurement, and those glucose values are now analyzed by the computerized algorithm, and they decide what is the rate of insulin infusion from the insulin pump. And that's why, as Dr. Arvind highlighted, there is a automatic, but that is not available at India. This will be available after, let's say, 2 or 3 more years. But at present, we are having separate system. One is pump and one is CGMS. And you have to be in between yourself deciding what should be my doses, regular doses and bolus doses. That is how we say we are open loop. This is open loop, means in between the two, you are deciding the doses. But once that algorithm is in there, this becomes the closed loop. You don't have to do anything. Everything will be automatic. That is available now in Europe and America, but not in India at present. And it may take some more years. But we started using this CGMS and insulin pump in the same patient.
Yeah, 670G will be available maybe.
Now
Yeah.
670 and 660 is
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
Any other question? Otherwise, we are really, I should say 10:22. So, Dr. GD, are you there? Dr. Saxena, I saw Saxena. Dr. Puneet Saxena. Otherwise, we thank Dr. Pungalia, sir, for arranging this meeting. And I think 35 people were there. So your efforts are not gone in vain. Large number of people were still there. And next week, we will be having a meeting from Jodhpur zone. So with that, I think Dr. Arvind, you can give the last words.
Thank you, Dr. S.K. Sharma Sahab, Dr. Pungalia Sahab, for excellent deliberation on the RSSDI therapeutic wheel. And I think most of the delegates will be benefited from this deliberation. I think you can continue and you can actually further, give this thing to your peers, to your other physicians, to your peripheral doctors. You can even, spread this therapeutic wheel deliberation to your peers and doctors, other doctors. Thank you very much.
I have loaded these slides on your WhatsApp group. And I have also loaded the full text of 120 pages of how you will be using these drugs. So you can go through them. These slides are there on your WhatsApp group.
So,
same slide what Dr. Pungli highlighted.
एक जिज्ञासा पूछ लें सर.
Yes, sir, most welcome.
ये peripheral neuropathy, autonomic neuropathy, severe cases already on treatment with metformin. Should we compromise or decrease the dose of metformin with other treatment or not?
The you are concerned about B12 deficiency there.
नहीं, autonomic neuropathy हो या peripheral neuropathy.
उसमें मेटफॉर्मिन देने में क्या हर्ज है? मेटफॉर्मिन से तो हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया होगा नहीं.
नहीं, उसका भी रोल होता ना न्यूरोपैथी बढ़ाने में.
No. Neuropathy indirectly बढ़ाते. Long duration of metformin causes B12 deficiency, and not in all the patients. Only in, let's say, 30% of patients with long duration of metformin. So most of your patients are already getting, I should say, some of these vitamin preparations which contains B12.
नहीं, पर हाई डोज में अपन मेटफॉर्मिन देते हैं 2 ग्राम तक, मान लो.
उससे भी ऐसा नहीं है कि हाई डोज देने से, उनके मेटफॉर्मिन देने से उनको न्यूरोपैथी होगी. No, only thing is metformin causes delay, or you can say decrease in the absorption of B12. So most of your patients are already on B12, and many of your patients are non-vegetarian. There is no concern. The concern comes only in vegetarian, and few of the patients are suffering from pernicious anemia. There the problem is big, and there you have to give it injectable B12, like you can give 3-4 injections alternate day, and then you can give 1 injection shot every month for few more months, so that the B12 levels are well maintained there. But it is not a real big concern in our, you can say, neuropathy patients.
Thank you.
Neuropathy develops when there is a uncontrolled long duration of hyperglycemia, and then you don't have any good drug. Only drugs which we are using like pregabalin or gabapentin or duloxetine are just symptomatic relief provider. Once the fiber is dead, you don't have any, you can say, good drug which rejuvenate or regenerate the nerve fiber. That is the problem. So that's why always try to achieve good control of hyperglycemia rather than allow the patient to deteriorate with uncontrolled hyperglycemia. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Gulia Sahab, last word of wisdom from your side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
ओके सर, गुड नाइट, टेक
Good
केयर।
discussion.
ऐसा सुनने में आ रहा है थोड़े से केसेस बढ़ रहे हैं भाई, थर्ड वेव का हंगामा चल रहा है, सो यू शुड ऑल टेक केयर ऑफ योरसेल्फ, डबल मास्किंग व्हेन यू आर टेकिंग योर you are examining your patients or you are going into your clinic, so be careful for next, I should say, next 2 months or so. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Thank you, Punglia Sahab.